Okay, so since you agree na i-record tong online class natin, then I started recording our online class. Okay.
Sir, good morning po.
Oh, good morning, Lori May.
Sir, wala pa akong laptop. Ginagamit ko ng pinsan ko may online po. Di pa ako nakahiram.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Sige po. Okay lang. Mamaya may activities naman kayo by group. So I guess kapag pwedeng ikaw ang sumagot dun sa activity, edi ikaw sumagot. Yun ay kung gugustuhin mo. Okay. So let's start. Allow me to share my screen. So let's have now the introduction to SQL or review of basic SQL on single tables. As we all know, okay, we already discussed some of the basic of SQL, especially doon sa web development natin na kung saan nagkaroon kayo ng web development plus database. Okay. But right now, our subject is database administration, on how you administer or how are you going to administer a database, or how are you going to handle a database. So what are the learning outcomes for this topic? Create program codes using basic SQL structure using single and multiple tables. Determine when and what aggregate functions to use. Determine the appropriate scalar function to use to simplify program requirement. Determine when to use group by clause. Explain the difference using having and where clause. Test program codes to ensure they meet requirements. So last time, ang mga ginawa natin, of course, is the DML statements o yung tinatawag nating data manipulation language. Sorry, nag-off na naman yung cam ko. Lagi nagaganito yung cam ko. Ayan. So again, last web development subject nyo, okay, we did different DML statements katulad ng select, insert, and other DML statements na meron tayo. Ngayon, magre-review tayo for the basic SQL and single tables to be able for us to refresh kung ano man yung mga natutunan natin. And of course, para at least maging ready tayo sa mga susunod pang topics na meron tayo. So of course, part of the review is the introduction of SQL o yung tinatawag nating structure query language o yung tinatawag nating SQL. This is a database query language used for storing and managing data in relational DBMS o yung tinatawag nating Relational Database Management System. So SQL was the first commercial language introduced for EF codes relational model of database. Today, all RDBMS katulad ng MySQL, Oracle, Infomix, Sybase, and MS Access use SQL as standard database query language. SQL is used to perform all types of data operations in RDBMS. So again, almost all RDBMS katulad ng MySQL, Oracle, Infomix, Sybase, and MS Access use SQL as the standard of database query language. Now, try to understand also na MS Access is also a database management system or an RDBMS na meron tayo. So, yung nakikita nyo yung MS Word, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, ayan, that's part of an Microsoft Office ay tinatawag nating productivity software. But also, baka nami-miss out nyo na we also have MS Access, which is also a RDBMS, which is also run by an SQL or yung standard nila as an SQL is very good. Okay? Kaya lang, of course, there are some lapses. There are some disadvantages of using MS Access katulad ng sir, paano kapag sobrang dami na ng data na meron tayo? Of course, you have to switch for RDBMS na talagang pangmalakihang data. Okay? So, ibig sabihin kapag hindi naman ganun karami yung data na meron ka or hindi naman ganun karami yung data that you're going to store, okay, you can use MS Access as its or as your RDBMS. Okay? And kung medyo madami naman, of course, you can now switch now to another RDBMS na meron tayo katulad ng MySQL o kaya yung SQL or kaya itong mga Oracle, Infomix, Sybase na pwede nating gamitin. Next, we have what we call the Sql Command. SQL defines following ways to manipulate data stored in RDBMS. So using the SQL command, it defines following ways to manipulate data stored in RDBMS. So halimbawa, you have data that you want to manipulate. Of course, you can use now the SQL command. Okay, we have now what we call the DDL. Actually, dalawa lang naman talaga yung pinaka, kumbaga, common, which is the DDL and the DML. No? So this includes changes to the structure of the table, like creation of table, altering table, deleting table, etc. All DDL commands are auto-committed. That means it saves all the changes permanently in the databases. Sabi nga dito, di ba? Kaya siya tinawag data definition language kasi you are pertaining to the definition of the data. That's why sabi dito, like creation, altering and deleting table. Ibig sabihin, once na ginawa mo siya, permanently or permanent na po yung changes when it comes to database. Unlike nung ginawa natin last time na meron tayong DML statement katulad ng ito, insert, update, delete, merge, so on and so forth. Ito mga to kasi yung data manipulation language, you are pertaining to the rows. Okay? Or yung laman ng table mo. Ito, yung DDL, you are pertaining to the whole table or to the whole database na meron ka. So halimbawa, nag-create ka. To create new table or database. Diba? It really affects the whole table and the whole database kasi you are creating the whole table and the whole database. And when we say alter, you are altering the table and you are altering the database. So, as a whole pa rin siya and you are pertaining now doon sa pinaka-structure ng table mo and not doon sa rows ng table na meron ka. So you also have truncate, delete data from the table. So kung doon sa, anong tawag dito? Anong tawag dito? Doon sa DML nyo, you have also the word delete. Ayan, delete a row. You are only deleting a row. While this truncate, you delete all the data from the table na meron ka. Okay? And of course, you also have the drop. Pag sinabi natin to drop a table, definitely mawawala yung table na meron ka. Hindi lang data, hindi lang rows, lahat ng table o yung buong table na dinrop mo, automatically mawawala. Okay? So, halimbawa, kinlik mo yung drop or halimbawa, tinype mo yung drop table, tas table name, definitely, mawawala po yung table na meron kayo. Okay? Kahit na ano pa yung field names na yan, pag sinabi mong drop, that means burado lahat. Okay? Of course, you have a rename. Ayan, that's why sinabi nga data definition language, you can rename your table as a whole, no? Of course, after DTL or data definition language, we have what we call the DML or data manipulation language. So DML commands are used for manipulating the data stored in table and not the table itself. Again, manipulating the data stored in the table, again, manipulating the data stored in the table and not the table itself. Ibig sabihin, hindi mismo yung table, but the data na nasa loob po ng table yung ginagawa ng data manipulation language. DML commands are not auto-committed. It means changes are not permanent to database. They can roll back. Ibig sabihin, pwede nilang balikan yung mga changes or yung mga updates na ginawa nila. Okay? So halimbawa, nag-insert ka, tapos gusto mong i-delete, tapos gusto mo na lang ulit i-insert, tapos i-update mo siya ulit. Okay lang. Okay? Wala siyang masyadong, or let's say, hindi naman siya maapektuhan yung buong table, but the row itself only. Okay? Kumbaga kung ano lang yung data na nakastore doon sa table mo. Next, ano ba yung mga commands when it comes to DML? We have the insert. To insert a new row. Di ba meron kayong ganito? Yung insert into asterisk or insert into table tapos kung ano ilalagay natin yung insert. Okay? Using the insert command, you are inserting now a row or a single row. So, ano pagkakaiba ng insert sa create? Of course, the create is you are creating a table or a database. Sa insert, magpapasok ka po ng isang row or insert a new row. So, ano may update? Update is to update existing row. So for example, you want some changes in your data. Data, hindi sa table. Sa data na nakastore doon sa table mo, of course, you can use the update. And if you want to delete a row, you can use the delete, and merge is merging two rows or two tables. Of course, we also have yung tinatawag nating transaction control language or TCL. Sharing transaction control language. These commands are to keep check on other commands and their effect on the database. These commands can annul changes made by other commands by rolling the data back to its original state. It can also make any temporary change permanent. So commit to permanently save, roll back to undo the change, and save point to save temporarily. So those commands will give you an assurance na okay, this one will permanently save my work. This one will undo the change. So parang pag nagkamali ka lang ng type sa Microsoft Office Word, okay, Control Z to be able for me to undo. So ganun din po yung gagawin nito. Next, we also have your DCL, yung tinatawag nating data control language. So data control language are commands to grant and take back authority from any database user. Kasi ang database po kasi natin, you can set a user. Okay? So ano yung ibig sabihin ng user? Parang kayo as a programmer, of course, you're going to have a user sa iyong system. And those users do have different authorities. Okay? Parang example, SIS nyo. You are a user sa SIS. Pero, hindi lahat ng functions ng SIS ay pwede mong magawa. Binibigyan ka lang or ginagrant ka lang. Ayan, grant permission of rights. So, may ginrant lang sa yung permission na kung saan pwede kang makapag-add ng subjects mo na pwede mong i-enroll. Ayan. Makapag-view ng grades mo. Okay. Pero, wala kang grant na, okay, pwede kong i-encode yung grade ko. Walang ganun. Okay? That's why data control language is the commands that grant and take back authority from any database user. So, ano naman yung revoke? Pag sinabi nating revoke, is to take back permission. Okay? So, halimbawa, graduate ka na. Wala ka nang pwedeng i-enroll kasi graduate ka na nga eh. Yung permission mo to add tama ba? To add subjects. Di ba nag-add kayo ng subject kapag nag-enroll kayo? Ngayon, i-revoke na yon. Kasi since you already or you're done with your academic requirements or let's say tapos mo na lahat ng units na meron ka at graduate ka na talaga. Of course, di ka na pwede mag-add. Ang pwede na lang siguro sa'yo is to view. Okay? Sige, view ko na lang yung mga grades ko po. Ayun. Di pwede kang mag-view ng records mo. So they will take back the permission na binigay sa inyo nung pwede pa kayo ang tawag dito, maglagay ng grades. Maglagay ng subjects nyo. Okay? So pag graduate nyo, ang bibigay na lang sa inyo is permission to view the grades. Then after that, tatanggalin na kayo doon sa permission na yon kasi you don't need to use the SIS. Kasi ang gagamitin nyo na po is yung halimbawa you're requesting a document, so doon na kayo papasok, which is another form of registration na. Kumbaga, nung nag-aaral ako, okay, I will use SIS. Nung gumraduate na ako, okay, this one is for alumni pala. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng graduate, ito na po yung ginagamit na link. Ibig sabihin, if you want to request documents, if you want to have a tracer study ng mga teacher, dito pala ako magaganyan-ganyan. Okay? Next, we have yung tinatawag nating data query language. Okay, so ano naman yung data query language na meron po tayo? Okay, pag sinabi nating data query language is used to fetch data from tables based on the conditions that we can easily apply. That's why we have your select, retrieve records from one or more table. Okay, so ginamit natin to for viewing purposes. Okay, it retrieve records or it view the records na kailangan mo. Next, let's go now doon sa tinatawag nating column and scalar functions. So, an SQL scalar function is a user-defined function written in SQL, and it returns a single value each time it is invoked. SQL scalar functions contain the source code of the user-defined function in the user-defined definition, the defined function definition. There are two kinds of SQL scalar functions, inlined and compiled. So, let's move. Okay. Asa na ba? See, a compiled SQL scalar function can have a body with logic written in SQL PL language. It can make use of any enhanced features of the creation functions. Ayan. Statement, including the support of table locator, data type for parameters, various options, and enhanced return statement that allows reference to scalar full select. A package is created for compiled SQL function. So, compiled SQL scalar functions include support for versioning and source code management. Okay, you can use compiled SQL scalar functions for the following tasks. Number one, you define multiple versions of SQL scalar functions where one version is considered the active version. Activate particular version of an SQL scalar function. Alter the routine options that are associated with the version of SQL scalar function. Okay. Okay, or as simple as, sabi nga, you can deploy compiled SQL scalar functions to multiple servers to allow a wider community to use functions that have been thoroughly tested without the risk of changing the logic in the routine body. Okay? So, ayun po yung ibig sabihin ng ating scalar functions. Okay. Now, ito yung mga isa sa mga, let's say, hindi naman isa, I guess this is really important. No? SQL Column Keyword. Okay. So, ibig sabihin ng column keyword. So, this time, itatry natin yung mga different examples na we have. Halimbawa, this one, we have the SQL column keyword na alter column. So, alter column command is used to change the data type of a column in a table. The following SQL changes data type to column name, birth date in the employees table to type year. Ayan. So, halimbawa, you have your alter table employees, alter column, birth date, tapos year. Okay. Next, the drop column. Drop column command is used to delete a column in an existing table. Ibig sabihin, if you want to delete this column, okay, you can drop this column. So, halimbawa, the following SQL deletes the contact name column from the customers table. Alter table, customers, drop column, contact name. So, ibig sabihin, mabubura daw po yung column na contact name under ng table na customers. Next, SQL Group By. The SQL Group By, ayan, the SQL Group By clause is used in collaboration with select statement to arrange identical data into groups. So, ibig sabihin, if they have a category, you can use now a group by. So, paano yun, sir? Sabi dito, this group by clause follows the where clause in a select statement and precedes the order by clause. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, sabi nga nila, ito yung example or syntax. Oh. The basic syntax of a group by or of a group by clause is shown in the following code block. The group by clause must follow the conditions in the where clause and must precede the order by clause. Okay? If one is used. Sabi nga dito, no? So sabi, select column 1, column 2, or let's say, select asterisk from table. But this one, ang nakalagay dito, select column 1 and column 2. So ibig sabihin, this one only pertain to the first column and to the second column na meron ka sa table mo. From table name, kung ano ang pangalan ng table na gagamitin natin, where, okay, anong condition yung gagawin mo? Okay? Where tapos conditions. Ano ba yung conditions na meron tayo? Tapos group by, column 1, column 2, tapos order by, column 1 and column 2. Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo sa syntax nito? This is how we're going to select from, select asterisk from, or select column 1, column 2, or any number of columns, tapos from, table name, where, condition, group by, tapos order by. Dapat ganito po yung pagkakasunod-sunod. Kapag we're going to use group by and order by. Eh sir, paano pag group by lang gagamitin ko? Walang problema. Eh di group by lang, wala kang order by kung ayaw mo. Okay? But most likely, kapag meron kang group by, okay, naglalagay ka na rin po ng order by. Okay? Next, example. Consider the customer's table is having the following records. You have the ID, name, age, address, and this time we also have yung tinatawag nating salary. So number 1, ID 1, ayan, si ganyan. Excuse me. Sa name, you also have age, you also have address, tapos salary. If you want to know the total amount of the salary on each customer, then group by query would be as follows. Sabi, if you want to know the total amount of salary of each customer, then group by the query to be as follows. Ito yan. Select, okay? Tapos select name, okay? Sum salary from customers, ayan. Group by, tapos name. This will produce the following result. Do you have the name, the sum, or the salary? Ayan. Tapos, you have this one. Sir, paano siya naging group by? Ano nangyari sa group by? Nung nag-group by tayo, ano napansin nyo? Anyone, ano napansin nyo yung nag-group by tayo?
Nawala yung ano, sir. Yung ano, age tapos address tsaka yung ID.
Yes, kasi ang ginamit natin ay
Yung ano lang, sir, yung kinuha lang natin yung tawag dito, yung salary tapos yung
sorry.
yung name.
Yes po, ganun nga yung nangyari. Ano pa? Nung gumamit ka ng group by, ano pa napansin natin?
Yung name naging alphabetical, sir.
Yes, that's right. Sabi dito, group by name. Okay? Sure, pag group by name, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun, you are grouping it by name, tapos automatically, in ascending order. That's why wala tayong order by eh. Kasi pwede mo lagay order by ascending o kaya descending. So kapag wala kang order by, tapos ayaw mo naman i-descending, halimbawa, gusto mo order by ascending, kahit hindi mo na ilagay yung order by ascending. Why? Kasi automatically, magiging ascending na siya once na naglagay ka ng group by. Okay? Kumbaga default na siya na kapag group by, ascending order pa rin yung gagawin niya doon sa list of column na meron siya. Okay, next. Now, let us look at the table where customers table has the following records with duplicate names. So, halimbawa, meron kang ID, tapos name, you have the age, you also have the address, plus you also have the salary. Now, anong mapapansin natin dito sa table na to?
May duplicate names po, sir.
Okay. Nag-duplicate siya ng name. Excuse me. May duplicate name siya. Ano pa? Si Ramesh, tapos si Kaushik. Ayan. Okay. Now again, if you want to know the total amount of salary on each customer, then group by query would be as follow. Ayan. Anong mapapansin niyo dito?
Nag-sum po yung salary.
Nag-sum yung salary nino nung may duplicate. Tama ba?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. Next, SQL Helping Clause. The Helping Clause enables you to specify conditions that filter which group results appear in the results. Okay. The where clause places conditions on a selected columns, whereas the having clause places conditions on groups created by the group by clause. Syntax. Select, from, where, group by, tapos having, tapos order by. Kanina, yung hanggang order by lang, tapos hindi pa tayo gumagamit ng having, wala tayo dito. O yung having na to is wala pa to. Di ba? Ito yan eh. Ito. Okay? Tapos nagkaroon ka ng word na having, SQL having clause, ito na yung nangyari. So how are we going to explain that one? Sabi dito, the having clause must follow the group by clause in query and must also precede the order by clause if used. The following code block has the syntax of the select statement, including the having clause. So we have your select column 1, column 2 from table 1, comma table 2 if you want to have two tables. Where conditions, group by column 1, column 2, tas having, anong condition ulit? Okay? Tapos order by column 1, then column 2. Now, for an example, consider the customer's tables having the following records. Okay? Following in an example, which would display a record for a similar age count that would be more than 2 or equal to 2, you have select SQL, select ID, name, age, address, salary, select ID, name, age, address, salary. Actually, you can use this one as asterisk, no? From customers, group by age, having age greater than or equal to 2. Okay? This produced the following result. ID is equals to 2. Okay? Kailan equals to 25. So ngayon, the question is, bakit ito yung lumabas? Bakit ito? Having count age is greater than or equal to 2. Ulitin natin yung title natin sa taas, ha? This is column and scalar functions. We're pertaining to the scalar functions and the column. Ngayon, the question, sir, bakit ito yung lumabas? Ano yung reason for that? Kasi, ano po yung reason natin? Anyone? Anyone, bakit ito yung sagot? Ayan, o. Ito yun. Bakit ito yung sagot?
Dahil po sa ID, sa ID number.
Kasi 2? Hindi po. The reason for that one, as you can see here, select ID name, age, address, salary from customers, which is the customer table. Ito po yun. Group by age. So ito, ginroup by sa age siya, no? Having account age greater than or equal to 2. Ang sabi, kapag yung count ng age daw ay greater than or equal to 2, yun lang daw po yung i-select niya or i-view niya. Ano ba yung may number na, ano ba yung merong ganito? Similar age. Anyone, I need an answer for this one. Bakit si Kilan yung lumabas? Bakit hindi si Chaitali? Ano yung reason? Anyone po?
Sir, try ko lang po.
Yes po.
Kasi po, kay Kilan po nagsimula yung may 2, 25, 23, 25, 27. Yung mga age po na by 2 po. Hindi
By
po
2?
kay Ramesh. Opo.
Sabi dito select ID, name, age, address, salary from customers, group by age. Having count age is greater than or equal to 2. Bakit nauna si Kilan? Kasi naka-group by siya sa age. Tama ba? Tama ba? Di ba yung ibig mong sabihin?
Opo, sir.
Yes. The reason kung bakit Sql yung lumabas doon, kasi you have your group by age. Fortunately or unfortunately, syempre nauna si Kilan kasi ID number niya ay 2. So kung ginroup by mo siya as age, pareho silang 25 ni Chay Tally, okay, syempre maghahanap ngayon si SQL kung sino ba unahin niya. But of course, since nauna nga si Kilan, then definitely si Kilan po yung lalabas dito. Okay? Let's continue. Where clause. SQL where clause is used to specify condition while fetching the data from a single table or by joining with multiple tables. If given a condition is satisfied, okay, then only it returns a specific value from table. You should use where clause to filter records and fetching only necessary records. Okay? The where clause is not only used in the select statement, but it also used in the update, delete statement, and etc. Halos lahat naman talaga ng DML statements kasama yung where clause. The syntax, select column 1, column 2, column 3, or asterisk from table name where, tapos kung anong condition. Halimbawa, where column 1 is equals to, or where column 1 is greater than, ganito, so on and so forth. You can specify condition using comparison or logical operators like greater than, less than, equal, like, not, etc. The following examples would make this concept clear. Kasi nga, di ba sabi, if you're pertaining to a condition, of course, you have to use your conditional operator. Okay? So you have your greater than, less than, equal, tapos like. Wait lang. I just have to check something. Wait lang. Okay na. Sorry. Okay. So, this one. So, consider the customers have the following records. ID, name, age, address, salary. Again, ito na naman, di ba? The following code is an example which would fetch an ID name and salary fields from the customer's table where the salary is greater than 2,000. So, ibig sabihin, ang kukunin daw niya is yung mga salary na mas mataas sa 2,000. Okay? Tapos, ang ipapakita niya lang daw or ang kukunin niya lang is yung ID, name, and salary fields only or the column. So, you have your select ID, name, salary, select ID, name, salary from customers where salary is greater than 2,000. Ayan, no? Dito kayo gumawa ng condition. So, this would produce the following. Ito. Now, the following query is an example which would fetch the ID, name, and salary fields from the customer's table for a customer with the name Hardik. Okay? Here it is important to note that all the strings should be given a single quotes. Ayan, yung dalawang single quote. Okay. Dalawang single quote. Tama, dalawang single quote. Okay. Whereas numeric value should be given without any quote as in the above example. So, ibig sabihin, kapag numeric or number po yung nilalagay natin as a condition, okay, definitely wala po tayong single quote. Kapag may letters naman, okay, you need to have your single quote. Okay? Saan na ba yun? Ito pala yun. This would produce the following result. 5 Hardik tapos 85,000. Ay, sorry, 8,500. Ayan. Kapag ginawa mo tong select ID, name, salary from customers where name, tapos Hardik. This would produce the following result. Of course, you have your assessment here, this one. Itong 4. Now, what you're going to do, everyone, is do these following examples na nakalagay po sa alter column. Sa column and scalar functions na meron po tayo. So, etong drop column, example, ayan. Sure, paano namin gagawin yung table? Walang example. Ito po yung table. Kokopyahin nyo lang. So, ibig sabihin, gagawin nyo lang based on this na mga nakasulat dito. Okay, kaya don't ask me kung, sir, asan po yung nilagay natin sa table? Ayan. Ayan po yan. If you need to change, of course, you just have to update. I'll just need a screenshot na, okay sir, ito po yung magiging result niya. Tsaka ito po yung code Halimbawa, ito yung code, sir. Tapos ito po yung screenshot. So you must have that one. So ito yon, scalar function keyword plus itong assessment na meron tayo. So you have here table orders. Ayan.
Sir,
M_ details. Yes, John Reeve.
yung example po, ginawa ko po yan sa sa Microsoft SQL.
Microsoft SQL. Oh yes, ano nangyari?
Pero same pa rin naman po yung lumabas. Hindi lang po sa hindi ko lang po siya ginawa dun sa may SAM.
Hindi, ang tawag dito, wala namang problema. Actually, kahit nga sa MS Access mo siya gawin.
Okay lang yan sir sa Microsoft ginawa.
I guess wala naman kasi yung sample naman natin is for MS Access. Ay, MS Access,
Okay.
sorry. For SQL naman. We're pertaining to the SQL commands. Okay? Ang sinabi ko lang, kaya kayo mag-install ng SAM or kahit ng WAMP, kasi kapag nagkaroon na tayo ng medyo mahaba-habang tables or whatever, baka kasi hindi naman nakayanin nung MS Access natin. Okay? Saka kasi baka masanay kayo ng MS Access or ng Microsoft Office na gamit nyo. Okay, Rave. Ang hinahabol kasi natin doon baka mamaya sa string connection nyo ng database nyo plus nung ginagawa nyong system, magkaiba-iba. Kasi 'di ba, kapag Microsoft ang ginagamit natin, we are using OLDB as a connection string. Unlike kapag ibang SQL, ay katulad nito, my page with my admin, 'di ba? We just have a connection string na ginagamit for the local host, the server, tapos yung table name or database name na ginagamit natin. Ibang-iba kasi yung connection nila. Pero kung ang ginagawa natin is more on SQL commands only pa lang naman, you can use your Access talaga or your Microsoft Office. Walang problema doon kahit hindi pa kayo mag-SAM. That's why nung inaano ko to, sabi ko bakit ba't kaya yung iba walang ginagamit? Especially yung nakaraan natin na sir, wala kaming database. You can actually create naman talaga using Microsoft Access or Microsoft Office. Kung ano man yung gusto nyong gamitin. Okay? Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo? Okay, so nagawa mo na to, walang problema kasi by group naman to. Di at least uulitin na lang natin. Okay, screenshot mo na lang. Eto. Nagawa mo na ba to, John Reeve?
Hindi pa sir.
Ayan, kasi lahat kasi ng activity nasa IM natin, we have to do that. Ang kagandahan lang pag nagawa nyo na, di tapos nyo na. Okay, kaya lang pag hindi naman natin i-grade lang kasi hindi naman natin gagawin, doon na tayo magkakaproblema. Ayan. So, ayan po. Yan po yung mga gagawin niya. Samples plus the assessment. Ngayon, I'll be grouping you into 11 lang kayo, no? Into 3. Okay na ba yung 3?
Okay lang po, sir.
Paano ba to? Assign manually na lang. 3. Yung isa, 2 lang. Ha? Okay. We have 3 rooms. Sa room 1, you make sure na merong laptop at least para matulungan nyo rin yung mga klase nyo na wala namang laptop or halimbawa naka-cellphone. At least makikita nila paano mag-codes. Okay, or paano mag-code. Ngayon, kung gusto nyo talaga silang maturuan, di i-remote nyo ngayon yung connection, mag-remote kayo ngayon. Okay? Para at least ang makakagamit is yung kaklase nyo. Di ba? Pwede naman yan But anyway, assign muna natin. Sino may computer sa inyo? Excuse me. Sino may computer sa inyo? Napakaramdam ko. Si Maricarla lang? So na yun. Fru, may computer ka ba? Ginagamit?
Naka-PC po ako ngayon.
O di may computer kang ginagamit. Hindi ka nasagot. Fru, inassign kita sa room 1. Assign ko din si Lovely.
Okay lang po, sir.
Sino ba? Kamo may computer kang gamit ngayon? Kamo?
Meron po, sir.
Gusto mo ikaw mag-present or 1, 2, 3? Dapat pala room, no? 4 pala dapat. Sorry. Lagay ko si Kamo. Kamo, sinong gusto mong kagrupo? Sino nga ba yun? Reeve, meron ka, no? Reeve. Tsaka sinabi ko kanina, si Dayaw. Lovely Dayaw. Okay. Okay, Andrew, sino gusto mong kagrupo? Isa lang. Kasi madami na kayo eh. Yung iba 3 na. Okay, ako ano, sino na lang matira siguro. John Reeve, sino ka gusto mong kagrupo?
Kamo, sir.
Eh di pwede. Ano na nga si Kamo sa isa eh.
Si ano na lang. May laptop si MC, no, sir? Si...
Hindi naman, kahit naman may laptop sila, wala nang problema. Inassign ko lang para kunyari, si Palma mapunta kay Lovely, at least meron talagang computer. Tapos kung kayo naman lahat na meron na, hindi wala nang problema.
Pwede si MC, sir.
Oo, walang problema.
Tsaka si ano.
Marie
Donato,
Carla, ilalagay kita sa room number 3. Pwede na kayong pumasok ha, pwede na kayong mag-umpisa nun pagkatapos. Tsaka si
Donato.
Donato. Ayan, si Donato sa room 3. Okay na. Pwede na kayong pumasok. Next, Fru, sino ka grupo mo?
Hindi po ba si Lovely, sir?
Hindi, nakaibang room si Lovely. Bilis, para makapasok na kayo. Tignan mo to si Pro. Ayan. Pro, buti bumalik ka. Pumasok ka kaagad, wala ka pang kasama.
Kahit sino po, sir, pwede naman.
Sino nga ilalagay ko?
Sino pa po? Oh, wait lang.
Ayan, yun nandito.
Si Lore May na lang po. Ilan po ba, sir? Tsaka
Tsaka sino pa?
si Sarah po.
Alibar. Oh, sige, pwede na kayong pumasok. Dayaw, sino ka grupo mo, Dayaw?
Si Missy po, tsaka si Ireneo.
Okay, Kamu. Assign ko sa'yo si Dolor, no? Ayan. Sige, pwede na kayong pumasok sa mga ano nyo, rooms nyo. Pwede na kayong pumasok. Lovely, pasok na. Lori May, pasok na. Selena, pasok na. Missy, pasok na. Kamu, pwede ka na rin pumasok sa ano, room mo. Ano
Sir,
yan?
naka-disable po yung ano, shared
Check
screen.
mo nga. Niloko mo ata ako. Try mo nga.
Yes, ayun lang. Kakaano lang, sir.
Hindi, kakahalo ko lang. Hindi ko napansin. O nga pala. Okay. Ang tawag dito, pwede mong i-record yung pag-uusapan niya, ano?
Sige, sir.
Wait ah.
Paano ba to? Okay pa.
Allow to record mo, ano? Ayan na. Try mo nga mag-record. Okay na.
Okay na pa.
Believe na ako ha. Okay na?
Okay pa.
Good morning. Kamu, gawin kitang ano, mag-record ka, local file. Okay lang?
Ano po, sir?
Mag-record. Click mo lang yung record button. Pakitry nga kung nakakapag-record na kayo. Ay, sige. Thank you.
Sir, nawala po ako.
Gawa ka ng new table.
Pru, pa-record ako. Pru.
Kiklik ko lang po yung record, sir.
Yes po. Si
Sa
Sarah
ano
ba,
na-
si Sarah ba yung nag-share screen?
Opo, naghahang po kasi yung ano ko, sir. PC.
Okay. Si Sarah na lang. Sarah, pa-record ako. Click mo lang yung record. Okay na. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay po.
Next. Excuse me. Lovely. Lovely, patry naman ako mag-record.
Sige po, sir.
Ba't hindi kita mabigyan ng record permission?
Hindi ko po alam.
Pa-off nga muna ng mic mo. Ay no, wala. Ba't ganun? Wait lang, leave lang ako ulit.
Back.
Ba't kaya ayaw? Naka-PC ka ba? Lovely?
Naka-cellphone po, sir. Sir, nalabas naman po. Recording naman po.
Hindi, sa PC. Sa cellphone. Asan yung PC mo?
Ay, ito po. Hindi po.
I-connect mo nga muna para di ka maka-record talaga kung cellphone yung gamit.
Okay po, sir.
Sige, join ka muna.
Okay po.
Join ka para matanggap.
Wait lang.
Carla, anong room ka?
Sa room 3 po, hindi ko po kasi ma-unmute yung mic ko, kaya tinry ko po join ulit.
Sige lang. Pero ba't ganun? Hindi kita ma-assign. Ay, ayun.
Sir. Sir, may problem po ako dun sa room namin. Hindi ko po ma-unmute rooms po.
Yes, Mary Carla, ano yan?
Hindi ko po ma-unmute yung sarili ko dun sa breakout rooms po namin.
Hindi ko alam din, Mary Carla.
Hindi ko po
Nakamit
Sige
ka
po,
naman
sir.
dito.
Oo nga, dito po pwede, pero dun sa room po hindi.
O di wag mo i-mute. Huwag ka na lang magsalita. Kung ayaw ma-mute.
Hindi po sir, hindi ko po ma-unmute para makapag-communicate po.
Off mo muna yung ano mo. Naka-speaker ka kasi. Dapat naka-earphone ka lang.
Ayan, Missy.
Dapat lovely, connect mo na lang yung PC mo para di ka nahihirapan.
Okay,
Sir,
okay.
ang bagal po ng wifi ko eh. No, no internet po sa laptop.
Sa laptop.
Opo. No internet po yung nalabas eh kapag magsusum po.
Sige. Kamusta yung gawa? Kamusta?
Example, sir.
This is Microsoft SQL Server.
Sir,
SQL Server pala yung gamit mo, no?
apa.
Anong taon to?
Wait lang, sir. 18 siguro, sir.
Sige, sige. Thank you. Kamusta ang ginagawa niyo?
Sir, di ba po pag double po yung pinili, pwede siyang may decimal?
Ba't kasi naglalagay kayo ng value? Huwag kayo mag-insert ng ganyan. Di ba tinuruan ko kayo paano mag-insert? Tama ba? Dapat pumunta kayo dun sa SQL, tapos lagay nyo, insert into. O di hindi kayo nagpapakahirap mag-ganyan. Di ba? Isa-isa nyo ini-encode dyan eh. Para saan pa yung select ay insert natin? Ayun, click nyo yung edit inline. O kaya edit. Click mo yung edit. O ayan. O mag-insert into. Anong table name yung pangalan mo? Ganun. Pag iniisa-isa nyo nilalagay, loko nyo yung sarili nyo. Okay? Have to leave now.
Yes po, sir.
Kamusta yung ginagawa nyo, Andrew and Shelina?
Yung statement, sir, okay na, sir. Pero ang gagawa muna ako sa yung statement, tapos na po, sir.
Yung assessment. Yung assessment, hindi pa?
Okay na po, sir.
Lahat okay na kayo?
Bali, yung sa assessment, sir, hinihingi lang naman, sir, yung yung statement. Bali, tapos na po kami.
Sige, sige. Anong room mo?
4 po.
Or wait lang. Sige, okay na. Pwede ka na mag-join. Ayan, good morning ulit everyone. Natapos nyo ba? Yung ginagawa nyo, natapos nyo naman?
Yung assessment, sir, di.
Ba't hindi? Kulang ba yung oras?
Assessment, sir,
Yung-
okay na, sir.
Yung ano, sir, yung sa iba lumalabas sa amin. Yung sa data type, hindi ko maayos.
Bakit? Paano hindi maayos?
Sir,
Ikaw,
gagawin
Akamo?
pa po. Tapos na po ako, sir.
Oo.
Gagawin pa pero sir yung example yung una mong tinuro.
Oo.
Sa groups pa yun, sir.
Oo. Hindi mo ginawa yan?
Hindi pa, sir. Akala ko yung assessment lang.
Kailangan nyo ba additional? Kasi ang i-discuss ko na lang, share ko muna, no? After nyo kasi niyan, mag-explain kayo after nun. Ito na lang. Ay, yung integrity constraint. Saglit lang to. Ayan, no? Review of integrity constraints. Yung mga ano lang to, yung mga hindi ka pwedeng mag-delete sa ng primary key, something na gano'n. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-duplicate ng primary key, so on and so forth. Ayun lang. You need time ba para matapos? Kaya pa ba? Kailangan nyo ba ng time para matapos?
Yes, sir.
Mga ilang minutes pa ang kailangan nyo?
Bali, sir, yung example, sir, na ginawa mo, sir, ay in-explain mo kanina. Di ko pa na-umpisan yun, sir. Akala ko, sir, yung assessment lang gagawin.
Sige, ganito na lang, no? Sige, papatapos ko na lang yung assessment sa inyo. Tapos discuss na lang ako ngayon. Okay ba yun? Para at least
Sige po,
dyan nyo na
sir.
lang, by group nyo na lang tapusin. Discuss ko lang to. Okay. So allow me to share my screen. So of course, after answering this activities or assessment, or kung sakali man di nyo pa nga natapos, at least pwede nyo ma-continue, no? Let's have now the review of integrity constraints. Okay. So ano ba yung learning outcomes? So explain the use and importance of integrity constraints. Determine how to enforce integrity constraints in program codes. Create a program code that will create database or tables following the rules of integrity constraints. Okay. Tapos, ensure that table design is optimal. Example, proper data type or size is assigned to field. So, napaka-importante nung integrity constraints, no? Kasi lahat ng to should be done properly, katulad ng proper data type, okay? Nasusunod ba yung integrity constraints when we create database or table? Okay, and paano ba nagkakaroon ng integrity constraints sa program codes? And ano ba yung importansya niya? Okay, so let's have now first the integrity constraints. Integrity constraints are set of rules. Okay, it is used to maintain the quality of information or the data na meron tayo. Integrity constraints ensure that the data insertion, updating, and other processes have to be performed in such way that data integrity is not affected. Okay, so ibig sabihin kapag nag-i-insert tayo, nag-update, nag-delete, ayan. Okay. Okay, ano ba yung mga ways and means na dapat nating malaman bago natin gawin yun? Bago tayo mag-add, ano ba dapat? Bago tayo mag-update, ano ba dapat yung dapat nating malaman? Bago tayo mag-delete, ano ba dapat yung dapat nating malaman? Thus, integrity constraint is used to guard against accidental damage to the database. Yes, that's right. It is used to guard against accidental damage to the database. Kasi tama nga naman, no, if you have the set of rules na-enforce when it comes to data, definitely this one will guard you or will protect you into accidental damage to the database. Okay. Now, to be able for us to know what are the different types of integrity constraints, here's an example of a integrity constraint illustration. So we have the integrity constraint. Under that, we also have the domain constraint, the entity integrity constraint, the referential integrity constraint, and of course, yung tinatawag natin key constraints. So I guess this one is medyo familiar guys sa key constraint. So let's now first have the domain integrity. So domain integrity means the definition of a valid set of value for an attribute. You define data type, length, or size. Okay, is null value allowed? Okay, is the value unique or not for an attribute? The default value the range values in between. So ano ba yung values na pwede nating ilagay and or specific values for the attribute. Domain constraints can define as a definition of a valid set of values of a attribute. Okay? So ibig sabihin, ano-ano ba yung kailangan or ano ba yung mga valid attribute or valid values na pwede mong ilagay doon sa gusto mong ilagay na information or doon sa gusto mong ilagay na data or information sa database or tables mo. Ikaw yung magsiset nun. The data type of domain includes string, character, integer, time, date, currency, etc., varchar, ganyan. The value of the attribute must be available in corresponding domains. Now, to be able for us to understand it more, the domain constraints, here's an example. So we have here a column or field names na meron tayong ID, name, semester. Sorry, this is semester tapos age, no? So we have here ID na 100, tapos name na si Tom, tapos per semester, tapos age is 17. Sabi dito, not allowed because age is an attribute value. So ibig sabihin, dito sa age, A, hindi pwede yung A kasi nga age is an integer attribute value. So ibig sabihin, if we're going to insert a value, dapat kung ano po yung field names na ginamit natin or the data types na ginamit natin for a certain field names, yun lang po yung pwede nating ilagay at pwedeng tanggapin ng system natin. So kung baga sa system no, if system wise, ang tawag po dito is the validation or verification or let's say validation, no. You are validating your input. So for example, enter your name. Pwede ka bang maglagay ng number sa name mo? Okay? Of course not. Okay, so what are you going to do to be able for you to ang tawag dito? Solve that problem? Anong solution yung kailangan mong gawin? Para for example, you have a validation when it comes to katulad dito sa age. This is a validation na okay, hindi pala ako pwedeng mag-input ng letter kasi age is an integer value. Ibig sabihin whole number lang po yung tatanggapin niya. So ganun po ang ibig sabihin ng domain integrity. We are pertaining to the data type, most likely the domain name data type of the field names or the columns na ginagamit natin doon sa database and tables natin. Okay? So that is what we call the domain integrity. Okay? In system, that is a validation. Okay? So para maiwasan yan, we can do two things. Una, by domain integrity. Pangalawa, by validation of the system. Di ba? Sa system kasi pwede mo nang sabihin pag gumawa tayo ng system, di ba, na using try and catch na you cannot input this one kasi we have a specific attribute na pwede mong gamitin, specific data type na ginamit, something na ganito, something na ganito. Okay? Which is also an example dun sa mga programs na ginawa natin which uses try and catch, yung enter a number pero naglagay ka ng letter. So, dapat ang sasabihin sa'yo, please input a number only. Something na gano'n. Okay? So again, that is a domain integrity. Next, of course, after domain integrity, we also have the entity integrity constraints. Okay, so the entity integrity constraint states that primary key value can't be null. Okay, kasi yun po yung entity na meron tayo when it comes to the primary key. So ano ba yung primary key? Okay, ulit, wait, ito this is because the primary key value is used to identify individual rows in relation. If the primary has a null value, then we can identify closed row. A table can contain null value other than the primary key field. So when we say entity integrity constraints, definitely this one is pertaining to, yung states that primary key value cannot be null. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng wala. Hindi pwedeng walang laman. So kapag nag-input tayo ng data or nag-input tayo ng information doon sa system natin, dapat laging may data. Okay? Halimbawa, this one is employee ID, no? Yung emp name na Jackson tapos salary na 27,000, wala siyang employee ID. So ibig sabihin, hindi mo siya pwedeng gawin. Or okay, hindi siya pwedeng ma-accept dapat. Why? Kasi ang sabi dito, this is because the primary key value is used to identify individual rows. Or let's say, this is used to identify an individual specifically. Sir, bakit naging specifically siya? For the reason na ang primary key kasi ito yung laging hinahanap eh. 'Di ba? Ito yung lagi mong hinahanap. Ito yung lagi mong tinitignan. Halimbawa sa'yo, ang student ID nyo, 'di ba? O sige, Miss Lori May, sige, Miss, anong pangalan mo? Ako po si Lori May Palma. Okay, sinearch yung pangalan mo. Ay, naku, dalawa yung Palma dito eh. Ano bang student ID mo? Okay, for that reason, your student ID now will be your employee ID. Your student ID. Halimbawa, Facebook. Ano ba yung primary key ng Facebook? Di ba yung email address and number? Why? Kasi we only have one email address. Or kung ang isang account kasi merong iisang email address lang. Phone number, kasi ang isang account, you can only register one number per account. Kahit na mag-register ka pwede ka mag-register ng maraming cellphone number, okay? At the end of the day, isa lang po yung account na tatanggapin for login purposes. Okay? Next, not allowed as primary key can contain null value. Ayan, ito. Kaya hindi siya inaalaw. Kasi nga hindi siya or null value kasi or walang laman yung primary key, which is hindi nga pwede. Okay? So that is what we call the entity integrity constraints. Next, we also have yung tinatawag nating referential integrity constraints. So it states that if foreign key exists in the relation, then either the foreign key value must match a primary key value of some tuple in home relation for the foreign key value must be null. Okay? The rules are ito. You can't delete record from a primary key from a primary table if matching record exists in a related table. Okay? So pag sinabi natin ganyan, ibig sabihin if the records exist dun sa isa pang table na related doon sa primary table or dun sa table na kung saan related siya, okay, or naka-imply siya, definitely you cannot delete that record. Second, okay, you can change primary key value in the primary table if the record has related records. That's right. Hindi ka pwedeng magbago ng primary key if yung record or the primary table na meron ka ay connected or related pa dun sa ibang records doon sa primary table mo. Number 3, you can enter value in the foreign key field of the related table that doesn't exist in the primary key of the primary table. That's right. Kung related silang dalawa sa isa't isa, tapos mag-i-input ka ng wala naman dun sa kabila, then definitely that's not valid. Number 4, however, you can enter a null value in the foreign key specifying that the records are unrelated. So pag in-specify na, okay, this is unrelated, hindi sila related sa isa-isa, then definitely you can do that. Example, in the referential integrity constraints, ayan, if a foreign key in table 1, ayan, refers to the primary key of the table 2, then every value of the foreign key in table 1 must be null or be available in table number 2. So here is an example. Table 1, you have emp name, age, and D number. Okay? So this is daw yung magiging foreign key. Sa table 2, ito yung relationship nila kasi nga may D number din. And D number now is the primary key for table 2. Now, this is the foreign key, di ba? Not allowed as D number 18 is not defined as primary. Primary key of table 2 in the table 1. D number is a foreign key defined. Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo dito?
Yes.
Naiintindihan po ba?
Opo, sir.
Ba't parang nadi-disconnect ba ako? Naka-disconnect ba ako?
Hindi ko, sir.
O naiintindihan ba natin yung ginagawa natin? Yung mga ganito? DCT. Parang may problem ba? Hello? Everyone, naririnig niyo ba ako? O, ba't hindi kayo sumasagot? Next, example 2. Consider two relations 2 and stu1, where stu_id is the primary key and stu relation and the foreign key in stu1 relation. So we have your relations 2. Tapos relations stu1. Stu_id is the primary key in the stu. Ayan. And foreign key in stu1 relation. So ito yung magiging foreign key. This one will be your primary key. So ibig sabihin, yung rules na nandito, Hindi mo siyang pwedeng gawin at ito yung mga dapat pwedeng gawin. Ito yung mga dapat mong sundin when you are to do referential integrity constraints. Sa rule 1, you can delete any of the rows in the Sql relation that are visible since all the Sql are in use in Sql 1. Ayan. Ayan. So pares sila. Rule 2, you can change any of the stud ID in the Sql relation since all stud ID are in use in Sql 1. Tama. Ginamit. Parehas. Pangatlo, rule 4, you can enter a null value in Sql1 relation if the records are unrelated. Okay, they are unrelated. Next, let's discuss now the key constraints. A key constraint is a statement that a certain minimal subset of the fields of a relation is a unique identifier of a tuple. The types of key constraints are the primary key, the unique key, foreign key constraints, not null constraints, and check constraints. So sa primary key, it is the term used to identify one or more columns in a table that make a row of data unique. Although the primary key typically consists of one column in a table, more than one column can comprise the primary key. For example, either of the employee social security number or an assigned employee identification number is the logical primary key for an employee table. The objective is for every record to have a unique primary key or value for the employee's identification number. That's right. The objective of having your primary key is to be able for you to have a record with a unique primary key. Because there is probably no need to have more than one record for each employee in an employee table, the employee identification number makes a logical primary key. Kasi wala naman po tayong kaparehas ng employee ID or ng student ID. That's why most of the time sila po yung nagiging primary key. The primary key is assigned at table creation. So once na nag-create ka daw ng table, dun ka na rin mag-create ng or mag-a-assign ng primary key mo. So for example, eto, the following example identifies the emp ID column as the primary key for the employees table. So gagawa ka daw ng table na employee, eto daw yung gagawin mo. Create table employee underscore TBL. Emp ID char9 not null primary key. Ibig sabihin, hindi daw siya pwedeng maging null, tapos naka-primary key siya. That's also the same with the other one. Emp ID, data type, the value, tapos anong key. So unique constraints. A unique column constraint is a table similar to primary key in that the value column for every row of data in the table must have a unique value. Although a primary constraint is placed on one column, you can place a unique constraint on another column even though it's not actually for use as the primary key. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pwede mo siyang ilagay into other. Katulad nito. Bakit siya naging unique constraints? Emp ID, that will be your primary key. Employee phone, that will be your unique constraint. Bakit? Kasi there's also be one phone that will be unique para sa'yo. That's why unique po yung nakalagay doon. Now next, a foreign key. Is a column in a child table that reference as a primary key. Okay? In a parent table, a foreign key constraint is the main mechanism used to enforce referential integrity between tables in relational database. A column defined as a foreign key is used to reference column defined as primary key in another table. Okay, next. Create table employee pay underscore TBL. Emp ID char9 not null. Position bar, so on and so forth. As you can see here, sa ginawa natin, you created your table employee which has a emp ID na primary key. Ngayon, dito yung emp ID, this one will be your foreign key dito sa unang table na employee na meron tayo. So ibig sabihin, they are related with each other. Yung table employee or employee TBL and the employee underscore pay underscore TBL. So that's how the foreign key works. As long as they are related with the primary key, okay? And ayun nga, nakalagay nga kanina sa atin na rule when it comes to referential. And of course, we also have the not null constraints. Previous examples use keywords null and not null listed on the same line as each column after the data. Not null is a constraint that you can place on a table's column. This constraint disallows the entrance of null's value into a column. Ibig sabihin, pag nakalagay po not null, ibig sabihin, kailangan lagi pong may value. Hindi niya tatanggapin kapag walang value. Dapat lagi pong may value yung fields na yon. Kaya nakalagay not null constraints. Next, check constraints or CHK. Okay? Can be utilized to check the validity of data entered into a particular table of columns. So, ibig sabihin, this is for checking. Check constraints are used to provide back-end database edits. All those edits are commonly found in front-end application as well. That's right. General edits restrict values that can be entered into columns or objects. Whether within the database itself or in a front-end application, the check constraint is a way of providing another protective layer for the data. Okay? So katulad nito, you have your constraint check, ito, yung dito, check EMP underscore zip, check EMP zip is 46234. So you're going to have a check constraint na nakalagay ganyan. Okay? Yung you're just checking when it comes to zip, halimbawa, you're checking kung ang zip code mo ay 245. 5 lang ba yung digits for the zip code? Sa number mo, 7 lang ba or 8 na ata ngayon ang phone number, no? Sa cellphone, dapat ba 11 lang yung naka-digit, so on and so forth. So that is a check constraints. Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo dito sa integrity constraints na meron tayo with the use of check constraints, the not null, the foreign key, the unique constraints, okay? The primary constraints, and of course, yung mga tinawag nating referential integrity constraint, entity, and of course, the domain integrity. Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo dito?
Yes po, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so this one will be your assessment also. Dagdag to, explain the different types of integrity constraint. So, maliwanag, kung ano yung mga sinabi ko, of course, hindi nyo ilalagay nyo rito. Of course, the SQL commands. Sunod nating topic, ito. Create program codes that will apply the DML commands, DDL, DCL commands, TCL commands. Okay? So, dagdag ko rin to sa ipapagawa nyo. Papagawa ko sa inyo. Lahat ng mga nakalagay dito, ayan. Gawin nyo po yan. Medyo mahaba-haba to. Ayan. Para pagdating ng nag-meet ulit tayo, at least you know kung ano yung dinidiscuss natin. At alam nyo na rin kung ano ba yung ginagawa natin. You have alter table, drop, truncate. Okay? You also have your creation. Of course,
Individual na po yan.
yes, this one is individual. Always remember ha, mag-umpisa kayo kung sa pinaka-umpisa. Kasi sunod-sunod po yan. Instructions yan, kumbaga. Katulad nito, hindi ka pwedeng gumawa ng insert into student. Paano ka gumawa ng insert into student? Wala ka pang student na database, ay na table. Dito yan mag-uumpisa. Oh. Ayun, oh. Consider a table student with the following fields. So, ibig sabihin, you have to create a student table na merong ganitong field. Always took a screenshot para at least makikita ko kung ano ba yung ginagawa niya. Nagkakaintindihan po ba tayo dito? Sa nakalagay dito, sa mga gagawin nyo.
Ilalagay sir sa Word.
Kung kaya sa, sige, walang problema kung sa Word. Total screenshot lang naman, no? Ganito lang, no? Stop share ko.